When I envisioned my wedding day, I pictured a perfect scene: a sunny day, flowers in bloom, laughter from friends and family, and of course, my fiancé, Jake, waiting for me at the altar. But deep down, I always sensed that this day could turn into a nightmare. My mom, Lisa, had always been the center of my universe, yet she was also a storm that could destroy everything in her path. I couldn't shake the feeling that she would do everything possible to make this day about her, not about me. Throughout the wedding preparations, I tried to balance my desires with my mother's expectations. She was so excited when I first shared my plans, but soon that excitement morphed into control. Every time I attempted to choose something for myself, be it the color of the dress or the style of decorations, she would challenge my decisions, claiming she knew better. Anger and disappointment built inside me, but I felt guilty for not being able to let go and allow her to enjoy the process. The wedding was set to take place in our hometown, in a beautiful old garden known for its romantic atmosphere. I had always dreamed of celebrating my most important day there. But as soon as I announced it, Lisa began expressing her disapproval, insisting it wasn't suitable for such an important event. I tried to explain why it mattered to me, but she brushed me off, as if my feelings didn't matter. "Emily, dear, this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. We need to make it perfect," she would say, and I felt my heart sink every time. As the wedding day approached, the tension between us escalated. I remember one particularly heated argument when I insisted on having a small, intimate ceremony with only close friends and family. Lisa wanted a grand affair, complete with a long guest list and extravagant decorations. "You can't possibly think that a small wedding will suffice. What will people say?" she exclaimed, her voice rising in frustration. I felt tears welling up in my eyes as I fought back. "It's my wedding, Mom. It should reflect what Jake and I want, not what you think is best." Despite my protests, Lisa went ahead and invited distant relatives I hadn't seen in years, insisting they were family. I felt betrayed and unheard, and as the wedding day loomed closer, I found myself questioning whether I could truly enjoy this day. Friends tried to reassure me, saying that this was a time to focus on my love for Jake, but I felt the weight of my mother's expectations pressing down on me. On the wedding day, I woke up filled with anticipation and anxiety. I knew that despite all the preparations, everything could go wrong. As I slipped into my wedding dress, I felt a mix of excitement and dread. The dress was beautiful, a delicate lace gown that hugged my figure perfectly, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my mom's presence would overshadow my special moment. I looked in the mirror and saw the reflection of a bride, but I also saw the little girl who had always tried to please her mother. I tried to focus on what was important, the love I had for Jake and our future together. But the thoughts of what could happen loomed over me. When I arrived at the garden, everything looked stunning. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the flowers, and the scent of roses filled the air. Friends and family were gathering, smiles and laughter filled the atmosphere. But as soon as I saw my mom, my heart sank. She was wearing a bright dress that, in her words, highlighted her figure, but in reality, it distracted from me. I tried to smile and hug her, but in her eyes, I saw something unsettling. It was more than just excitement. It was a certainty that she was about to take control of this day. As the ceremony began, I walked toward the altar with Jake, feeling everything around me fade away. He looked so handsome, and I felt a rush of love wash over me. But the moment I reached him, I noticed my mom whispering to a friend, who shot me a disapproving glance. I couldn't concentrate. I was overwhelmed with the feeling that something was off. My heart raced as I took a deep breath, trying to focus on the vows we were about to exchange. When we finally began to exchange vows, I felt the tension rise. I was happy, but I was also afraid that my mom might intervene at any moment. I could see her fidgeting in her seat, and it made me anxious. Finally, when we exchanged rings, I saw her suddenly stand up and head toward the microphone. I froze, my heart racing. She began to speak about how proud she was of me as her daughter, how she had always dreamed of this day. I felt the tension building in the room. I glanced at Jake, and his expression changed. He was confused and concerned. I knew this was not just a touching speech. It was her attempt to regain control. Then she said something that made my heart stop. "I always knew Emily had a secret, and I hoped she would share it today, but it seems she's not ready." Silence fell over the room. I looked at Jake, and his face shifted to confusion. He had no idea what my mom was talking about, and neither did I. I felt the color drain from my face, realizing this was not just a wedding speech. This was her way of taking back the narrative. I looked at my mother and saw something in her eyes that I hadn't noticed before: fear. It was the fear of losing me, the fear that I would step into a new life without looking back. I knew she had always been the dominant figure in our lives, but I never understood how deeply she feared losing me. Her words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and I felt a mix of anger and pity for her. When I returned to Jake, I could feel him starting to ask questions. I couldn't explain what was happening, and that only heightened my anxiety. Inside, a conflict raged. I wanted to protect my family, but at the same time, I couldn't let my mom ruin my day. I decided that I needed to talk to her right then and there. After the ceremony, I approached Lisa, and although a storm was raging in my heart, I tried to speak calmly. What did you mean when you said I had a secret? I asked, trying not to reveal my distress. She looked at me with such pain in her eyes that I felt my resolve starting to weaken. I just wanted you to know that I will always be here for you, and that I love you, even if it sometimes looks different, she replied, and I heard sincerity in her voice. But at the same time, I understood that this couldn't justify her actions. I felt an overwhelming urge to scream, to tell her how much her behavior had hurt me. At that moment, I realized that this was perhaps not just a conflict between us. It was a struggle to be heard, understood, and accepted. I couldn't let her ruin my day, but I also couldn't ignore her fears. I decided that I needed to express my feelings to her, how her behavior affected me and my relationship with Jake. As I began to speak, I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I talked about my fears, how difficult it was to feel overshadowed by her expectations. I shared how I wanted her to support me rather than control me. I spoke of the love that should exist between a mother and daughter and how important it was for her to understand that I wasn't going anywhere. Mom, I love you, but I need you to trust me, I pleaded, my voice trembling. Lisa listened, and I saw her face change, her fear giving way to understanding. I hoped this would be the moment when we could restore our relationship and start anew. But then she said something that turned everything upside down again. I can't believe you didn't tell me about Jake. I froze. What did she mean? I had never hidden my feelings for him from her. I realized that her fears were not only about loss, but also about not knowing who I truly was. In that moment, I understood that my wedding was not just a union with Jake, but also an opportunity to reconnect with my mother. I decided that even if this day had already been spoiled, I could take a step toward healing. I hugged my mom tightly, feeling her warmth and the familiar scent of her perfume. I want you to be a part of my life, Mom, but I need you to let me live it on my own terms, I whispered. When I returned to Jake, I felt that this was not the end, but a beginning. We talked about what had happened, and he supported me. I could see the concern in his eyes, but I also saw love and understanding. Emily, you deserve to have the wedding of your dreams, and I want to help you make it happen, he said, taking my hands in his. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. As the evening wore on, I noticed the atmosphere shifting. Guests began to mingle, and laughter echoed through the garden. I realized that despite the earlier turmoil, we could still salvage this day. I took Jake's hand and led him to the dance floor. As we swayed to the music, I felt a sense of peace enveloping us. The worries of the day began to fade, replaced by the joy of being with the person I loved. Later, as I watched my mom chatting with some of the guests, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this day could still be a turning point for us. I approached her again, this time with a softer heart. Mom, can we talk? I asked gently. She looked at me, her expression a mix of apprehension and longing. Of course, sweetheart, she replied. We found a quiet corner away from the crowd, and I took a deep breath. I know today has been difficult, but I want us to move forward, I said, my voice steady. I want us to have a relationship based on trust and understanding. She nodded slowly, tears brimming in her eyes. I never intended to hurt you, Emily. I just wanted to protect you, she admitted, her voice breaking. I know, Mom, but I need you to let me make my own choices, I replied, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. We talked for what felt like hours, sharing our fears and hopes for the future. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, I felt a sense of connection rekindling between us. As we spoke, I realized that my mother had always been driven by love, albeit a misguided love. She had always wanted the best for me, but her way of showing it had often suffocated me. I shared stories of my life with Jake, how he made me feel cherished and understood, and how I wanted to build a future with him. Lisa listened intently, her expression softening as I spoke. I want you to be happy, Emily, she said, her voice filled with sincerity. I just didn't know how to let go. The conversation shifted from past grievances to future possibilities. We began discussing how we could both grow from this experience. What if we set aside some time each month to talk? Just you and me? I suggested. We can share what's going on in our lives, and you can help me plan things, but only if I ask for your input. Lisa nodded, a smile breaking through her tears. I would love that, she replied, her voice filled with hope. As the evening turned to night, the garden was illuminated by twinkling fairy lights, creating a magical atmosphere. I felt a renewed sense of joy as I rejoined the celebration. The music played softly in the background, and I found myself laughing and dancing with Jake, surrounded by our friends and family. Every so often, I glanced at my mother, who was now mingling with guests, her laughter ringing out like music. In that moment, I realized that this day, which had started with so much tension, had transformed into something beautiful. It was a day of love, not just between Jake and me, but also between my mother and me. We were beginning to understand each other in ways we never had before. As the night wore on, I felt a sense of gratitude for the challenges we had faced. I knew that our relationship would take time to heal completely, but I was hopeful. I had always dreamed of a perfect wedding day, but now I understood that perfection was not about the absence of conflict. It was about the ability to overcome it together. Later, as the last dance came to an end, I found myself standing outside the garden, taking in the beauty of the night sky. Stars twinkled above, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Jake joined me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "You did it, Emily. You faced your fears and came out stronger," he said, his voice filled with admiration. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I couldn't have done it without you," I replied, leaning into him. As we stood there, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead would not be without its challenges, but I was ready to face them. With Jake by my side and a newfound understanding with my mother, I felt equipped to navigate whatever life would throw our way. I knew that love, in all its forms, would guide us through. As we made our way back to the party, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I wanted to create a life filled with love and understanding, not just for myself, but for my mother and Jake as well. I wanted to build a family that would thrive on open communication and support, a family that would celebrate each other's victories and navigate challenges together. The following weeks were filled with excitement as Jake and I settled into married life. We spent weekends exploring new places, trying out new recipes, and enjoying each other's company. But I also made a conscious effort to reach out to my mom regularly. We began meeting for coffee every Saturday morning, just the two of us. It became a cherished tradition, a time for us to bond and share our lives. During one of our coffee dates, I brought up the idea of planning a mother-daughter trip. "What do you think about going to the beach next month? Just you and me?" I suggested, watching her face light up. "I would love that," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. It was moments like these that made me realize how much I had missed having her in my life without the weight of expectations. As the months passed, our relationship continued to grow stronger. We learned to communicate better, and I felt more comfortable expressing my feelings. Lisa began to understand that her role as a mother was not to control, but to support. She started to respect my decisions, and I could see the pride in her eyes when I shared my accomplishments. One day, as we were preparing for our beach trip, Lisa surprised me with a heartfelt letter. In it, she expressed her love for me and her desire to be a better mother. "I know I made mistakes, but I want to learn from them," she wrote. "I am so proud of the woman you have become, and I want to be there for you in a way that truly matters." Tears filled my eyes as I read her words. It was a turning point in our relationship, a testament to the progress we had made. The beach trip was everything we had hoped for. We spent our days lounging in the sun, collecting seashells, and sharing stories. We laughed until our sides hurt, and even took silly photos together, capturing the joy of our newfound connection. As we walked along the shore, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The waves crashed gently against the sand, mirroring the rhythm of our hearts as we embraced our new relationship. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water, I turned to my mom. "Thank you for being here with me," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "I feel like we've come so far." She smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "I feel it too, Emily. I want you to know that I will always be here for you, no matter what." As we stood there, watching the waves roll in, I realized that my wedding day had not been ruined but transformed into a catalyst for growth and healing. It had brought my mother and me closer together, allowing us to build a foundation of trust and understanding. Looking back, I understood that the challenges we faced were not obstacles but stepping stones toward a better relationship. I had learned that love is not just about grand gestures. It is also about the small moments of connection that build a lifetime of memories. I felt grateful for the journey we had taken, and I looked forward to the future with hope and excitement. As I returned home from our beach trip, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I wanted to create a life filled with love, understanding, and open communication. I wanted to be the kind of wife and daughter who embraced challenges and celebrated victories, knowing that we could navigate anything together. With Jake by my side and my mother as my ally, I was ready to face whatever life had in store for us. Our journey was just beginning, and I felt confident that, together, we could create a beautiful tapestry of love, laughter, and support that would last a lifetime.